Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Wiki Weekends. I am your host, Lucas Holland, and as always I am joined by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
Hello.
And I will admit, Karl, today I've picked a bit of a selfish wiki.
Is it another One Piece one?
No, it's just one to plug a stream that me and you were doing.
Oh, okay. Advertising on YouTube, Lucas, who'd have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it? So over on my Twitch, we will have just started this week doing Mass Effect Mondays once again, and we're going to be playing Mass Effect 2.
So it's been a hot minute since I played Mass Effect 2. So I'm excited to learn more about it.
That's the thing for me. I was playing through it maybe just before the Legendary Edition came out, and I didn't quite finish it, but I was playing through and got most of the way there, and then I kind of paused when the Legendary Edition came out. I was like, I don't know whether to restart my playthrough on there and get the ending of 2 and do 3 on the Legendary Edition, and then other games came out, and so I've recently played most of Mass Effect 2, but not all of it.
Because I feel like Mass Effect's one of those things, the first, second, and third game all kind of blend together in my head, because it's the third one, isn't it, where you've got to gather your allies? Where it's the whole resource management system of you have to get enough war credits to have enough of a chance to stand up to the Reapers. Is that the one?
Yeah, that'll be number 3, yeah.
But in my head, that takes part in number 2, because I feel like the story so seamlessly blends from 2 to 3 that in my head they occupy the same space. Because every time I play 2, I always play 3.
Especially 2 and 3, I think, are written as more of a put together story in terms of they feel like they are one story cut into 2 parts, whereas Mass Effect 1 kind of, it does stand on its own as its own story, and then kind of leads, it
leaves the door open for a potential sequel if it did well.
Exactly,
because it did really well. Mass Effect 2.
We stopped the Reaper coming in, so that'll stop all the other Reapers maybe, and then it's Mass Effect 2 is no, we didn't.
Yeah,
they're all here.
Mass Effect 1 was written with the potential for there to be a sequel. Mass Effect 2 was written with the sequel in mind.
Yeah, for sure, and it's one of those of that's not disparaging Mass Effect 1 in any way. We really enjoyed it.
Very good standalone game, yeah.
Yeah, we really enjoyed streaming that, and unfortunately we did lose one extra member of our crew, RIP, everyone's favourite Krogan, Rex, rest in peace, at least for our stream. So when we were playing Mass Effect 2, we will not have Rex.
No more talk, Shepard. I've got to do this my way.
We made some mistakes and we played too middle down the road, and we didn't have the points either way to sway it, unfortunately. And
that's the issue as well of as good as the games are, I cannot stand the morality systems from the circa 2010s Xbox 360 generation of just you either go all good or all bad or you're fucked. There is no reward for actually. It's a role playing game, but if you try and role play it as a character who is not a goody two shoes or a huge piece of shit, nuance, yeah. If you try and role play as a character who has actual depth, you can't win.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you can still beat the game and you can still get through, but in pivotal moments trying to not get Rex killed, we basically were done for because we tried to have nuance in our decision making and we ended up just not leaning in hard enough to Paragon or Renegade.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those of, it's not a black and white system, but if you don't play it as a black and white system of just pick one or the other, then you're fucked for it.
Yeah. And it's you're being punished for not just railroading yourself into one way of playing. And I think that's something even the people making Mass Effect acknowledged of. There's that legendary tweet, isn't there, of, everyone who played Mass Effect 1 played as default male Shepard Paragon soldier. Mm-hmm. And no one wanted to see any Renegade stuff. It's because to see Renegade stuff, you have to play full Renegade. And full Renegade, you've got to play as a space racist.
Yeah, the spacist comes out for sure. And I forgot how much, because, in our stream, we were playing the mostly Renegade femshep with a bit of again, a bit of nuance, a bit of Paragon in them. And when we leaned really hard into the Renegade, I was like, oh, we're going full spacist mode here.
It's the thing that I don't like about it as well, of like, me and you both talked about, when you Renegade, we mean Renegade in the sense that we're going to ignore the rules. So you think Renegade would be like, okay, I'm going to break the rules. Like, I'm going to cut through all this bureaucratic red tape.
Fuck the system, yeah.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense because your character is a Spectre. And in the universe of Mass Effect, they say Spectres are quite literally above the law. We empower them to be above the law so they can cut through the bureaucracy of, like, the 15 different alien races that exist and just solve problems.
Yeah.
And so you'd think the Renegade system will be leaning into that, whereas the Paragon system would be more human, be more diplomatic. But Renegade just be, I'm racist. It's like, that's not what a Renegade doesn't mean you're racist, it means you ignore the rules. Like, you forge your own path.
It's not like racist, it's like speciesist because it's
literally
all
racist.
About humanity.
Yeah, and that's what I don't get. Like, they call it Renegade, but that's not a Renegade decision. Like, Renegade should be, like, ignoring red tape, ignoring bureaucracy.
Yeah. And it can be that at times. It can be like, just punch a guard and get through.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, being diplomatic about it or anything. Or, like,
just threaten
pushing a guy out a window.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And, you do have those moments, but, yeah, a lot of it is just like, no, fuck other species, we only trust human beings. It's like, no, that's not what I wanted here.
Especially when you're mostly rocking around with a party of aliens.
Yeah, they're all of the cool characters of the aliens. Like, Caden is just a bit of, like, a milquetoast boy, and then, Ashley is the space racist.
That's what it feels so weird as well, that it just leans so hard into the space racist aspect. And it feels like that should be, like, if they were going to do good and evil playthrough, like, say, the fact it's called Renegade.
Yes. It's not evil, it's Renegade. And it's like, it's not really in the game, like, labelled as being a bad person.
No.
Mass Effect 2, when you obviously have, like, the recovery scars, it does lean a bit more into making you look like the evil person.
If they call it evil, yeah, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
If they call it good and evil, it's the fact it says Renegade, and in my head, Renegade is very different from being evil.
Exactly, yeah. And I think, like, if they had labelled it good and evil, then it's like one of those things of, but I don't want to be an evil person because I'm meant to be a hero saving the galaxy.
And that's the problem, yeah. Like, when you want to roleplay the game, it's like, do you want to be a renegade? It's like, yeah, I want to forge my own, I want to forge my own path. I want to cut through all the bureaucratic red tape. And then you get to the end of the game, it's like, now humanity is fit to rule. It's like, that's not what I wanted to do at all.
The Council was always holding us back. When I saw the opportunity to get rid of them, I took it.
Good God, Shepard. How can you even say that?
Don't act so surprised, Captain. We all know it's true. Sacrificing the Council assured our victory over Sovereign. The end justified the means. We humans understand that. It's what makes us stronger than the others.
Just Emperor Palpatine in the background, like, yes, yes.
And it just reminds me a little bit of, are you familiar with the term cut the knot?
I don't think so, no.
So I think this would be like the perfect example of what a renegade run would be to me. So are you familiar with the Gordian knot then?
I don't think so, no.
So the Gordian knot is this, like, legendary thing from history of, it's like this untieable knot called the Gordian knot. And supposedly Alexander the Great came across it, and they said that anyone who can untie this untieable knot would be destined to rule. And Alexander the Great pulls out his sword and cuts it in half. And he says it's untied. And they say that's not what we actually do. And where in the rules does it say I couldn't do that? And that to me is the ultimate renegade choice of, like, it's just that thing of, like, I'm just going to do. It's like that thing. It's like the Harrison Ford thing in, like, Temple of Doom, isn't it? Just shooting the guy with a sword. Yeah, that's a renegade choice. Mm-hmm. It's not honourable, but it gets the job done.
I am excited to stream Mass Effect 2 because the first Mass Effect doesn't have, like, the kind of cutscene breaking moments where you can press the triggers to do, like, a Paragon or Renegade, like, option mid cutscene. Mm-hmm. And I love some of those things of, like, as I mentioned earlier, just pushing a guy out a window mid conversation
because it's quicker. Yeah, because,
like, you've just had enough, and it's like just the little Renegade trigger comes up in the bottom corner, and you're like, yeah.
Tell me where the assassin is.
I've got nothing more to say to you. If you shoot me...
I get it, games weren't as refined back then as they are now, but even today you still get that. That's why I've been loving Baldur's Gate 3 so much. Because there's like moments in that you think in a lesser game. Do you know when you worry about selecting an option because you think, well, is this the good or the bad choice? Like, for example, lying. And I'm thinking, if I select this, do my teammates know that I'm lying? And they do. Like, so for example, you got teammates of like, betray these people. And you can select to betray them, but then like your teammates will say like, are you lying? It's like, yeah, I'm lying. And it's like, oh, okay then. But like, selecting the betray option doesn't immediately just like railroad you into a decision. You select it, but then you can just go back on it at any point and betray the person who you were betraying.
I'm waiting to play like co-op when like the Xbox version launches and crossplay and stuff. So I haven't played it yet, but it sounds to me like Baldur's Gate 3 is a role-playing game where you can actually get to play a role. Like, yes, you could argue you're playing the role of Shepherd, but you don't really get to like role play as like your own character, even as you create your own Shepherd, but you don't get to like pick your own Shepherd. It's kind of, Shepherd with shades of role playing in it.
Yeah, like I said, if you try and make your own if you try and make the decision that you would morally in that situation, you get punished for doing so. Because if you don't only pick the good or the bad options, and they are the good or the bad options, you get basically the game gets in the worst possible state, and that's a really bad thing. So there's no way to like diplomatically resolve things. The only way to do it is be a goody two shoes or an arsehole who shoots everyone. But what about if I don't want to be an arsehole or a goody two shoes? What about if I just want to get the job done?
Yeah. It's like, what if I want to have moments when I can be like, this badass who cuts through tape and stuff, as you say, but I also want to have moments where I have empathy. Yeah,
that's the thing. I want to cut. That's the problem. Like, I want to be a renegade, so I want to cut through red tape. But that doesn't mean I want to just leave civilians to die. And that's the thing. Like, those decisions seem to be the exact same thing by the game's morality system of, like, pushing a guy out of the way of like, have you got a pass? Of just like flashing your gun and saying, let me the fuck through. Because I've got shit to do because like this is important. It's the same.
It's the same as weight. Like letting the Rachni race die.
Yeah, like genocide.
Letting, like, the genophage go through or whatever. Yeah,
like, committing allowing a genocide to happen in the Mass Effect universe as the same like moral weight as telling a reporter to fuck off.
But anyway, Carl, we'll get into this wiki here. We're talking about Mass Effect 2 specifically, which is an action role-playing video game developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 in 2010, and then PlayStation 3 in 2011. So
nice bit of Windows.
Yeah, when they were pushing it as like Microsoft Windows Gaming or something like that. They've branded the PC stuff, but very differently over time. PC and Xbox 360 in 2010, and that's because like Mass Effect 1 was exclusive to like PC and Xbox.
It was, yes. Oh, if you had the PS3 version, you had to just basically make up what happened in the first game.
Yeah, they just basically said like, oh, here's a little webcomic, read the webcomic and decide what you did in the first game. And it's like, it's a cool way to get around the fact the first game was exclusive, I guess, but for PlayStation 3 players, that must have sucked.
Yeah. Do you know one thing I don't like as well? Like you said, action RPG there. You can literally see this on the cover, because the cover of Mass Effect 1 is a bunch of cool aliens stood. Mass Effect 2 is everyone's got a gun.
Everyone's got the gun.
Because it was just on that cusp of like the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 era of just every game. And if anyone's wondered why did every game back then have a guy with a gun, they did marketing and found that if your character you had a man with a gun, usually obviously a white man.
Yep.
If you had a white man with a gun on the front cover of your game, it would sell 10% more.
And like you can look
depressing.
At that era where it's like bland white man with gun standing in the middle of cover, and that's what cover art was for like half of the games that came out.
Was that ever funnier than with BioShock Infinite?
Oh god, like
where they spent 90% of the gameplay talking about how important Elizabeth is to the story, and they didn't even put on the front of the fucking box. So I always give props to Naughty Dog when Sony told them put Joan on the front with a gun, and they said no, Ellie's the main character. And if you look at that, Ellie's in front of Joan because Ellie's more important.
It's funnier in BioShock Infinite because you never even see Booker.
Nope. But he's like, a white guy, and he's got a gun.
Look, Booker DeWitt is like the character you play as the FPS, where you like never see the dude.
Yeah.
And they're like, put him on the front.
Put him on the front, yeah. I'm wondering if there's like a remastered version where they put Elizabeth on the front.
I wonder.
I'm wondering. I'm going to look that up. Go on, tell me more about Mass Effect, and I'll look that up.
Of course, it is the second installment in the Mass Effect series and a sequel to the original Mass Effect. The game takes place within the Milky Way galaxy during the 22nd century, where humanity is threatened by an insectoid alien race known as the Collectors. Yeah. And I guess, just for anyone that is concerned, we are going to be talking spoilers here. Mm-hmm. It's an old game at this point, but, it's one of those of, I'm just going to warn people anyway, just so no one's upset.
Also, I looked it up for the complete edition of Bioshock Infinite. They put Elizabeth on the cover.
Of course they did, yeah.
And she's in front of Booker.
At least they heard that feedback, but
it's
dear God,
it's not even
who
they
made
heard
that decision in the first place?
Do you know what it is? It's not that they heard the feedback. I guarantee it's because they didn't realise how much fan art would be done of Elizabeth.
Maybe, yeah.
They didn't realise how popular a character she'd be. Not realising that you spend 90% of the game looking her in the fucking eye. You spend 90% of the game looking at her.
Like, she's the main character of that game.
She's the single most iconic visual from the entire game.
Mm-hmm. They didn't think
yeah, they didn't think she'd be put her on the cover. So, do you know what gamers really hate, Lucas? Hot women.
Yeah, I've heard, yeah. I mean, surprisingly more than you'd think actually do, but,
Like, hot women in what appears to, basically a sailor cross schoolgirl outfit. Yeah, that's not going to sell.
And, yeah, here is one of the more contentious parts of the game, is for the game, BioWare changed several gameplay elements to further emphasize third-person shooter aspects, including limited ammunition and regenerable health.
The single most... I don't mind that they made it more action-orientated.
I don't mind at all. It plays a lot better.
It plays better. I don't like that you can't customise your guns anymore. That was frustrating, because I like making acid-firing shotguns, because that was just dumb. It makes no sense that in the established lore of the first Mass Effect, guns do not have ammunition. Because they are miniature Mass Effect relays. So what's a Mass Effect relay in the universe, Lucas?
It's a big relay that shoots things very fast.
Yeah, and each gun contains a miniature one of them, and rather than shooting a traditional projectile, it shaves off a paint fleck-sized piece of metal from a large chunk of metal inside of the gun and projects it through this miniature Mass Effect relay at very high speeds. So effectively, every gun in that universe has infinite ammunition, and they say that every gun ever made with this technology can be fired for tens of thousands of rounds, guaranteed without ever jamming or stopping. Between the events of the first and second game, every single one of those guns in existence stopped being useful.
You go to a thermal clip system instead.
You go to a backwater planet where it's there's been rebels fighting on it for 20 years. They've all got these new guns. Because they wanted to put an ammunition
these new
system.
worse guns.
Yeah. And it's that thing of that was such a cool bit of lore. And it contextualised why guns don't need reload. They don't reload, they need overheating. And the overheat system was fine, but they wanted to put fucking ammo in. It's like one of the coolest things.
Because they wanted to just be like every other fucking cover game and shooter.
You can make it more like a cover game, but you had this one unique aspect in the way the guns worked. The way the guns worked was super fucking cool.
And they had an in-lore explanation for why it was cool.
Yeah. They just say between games, literally every alien in the universe bought a new gun. No one decides to keep the other gun with infinite ammo.
Yeah, the other gun that was inarguably better.
It's better in every single way. And I think they say, those old guns didn't fire fast. Basically, they said new shields got invented. It's like, okay, so why did everyone in the universe get one of these new shields?
Mm-hmm. I don't mind the regeneration of your health. That's not too bad to me. You're in the fucking future, you've got weird future shit in your armor that fixes your body, fine. And, especially with how bad the checkpointing was in the original Mass Effect, I'm glad to get away from the fact that, you ran out of med packs and you just died and now you've got to go back half an hour.
So I don't mind it. I don't give a shit. It's you're in the future, who cares? It's not about the combat.
I always say, Mass Effect 2 is, the peak of the series, but some people like to argue that Mass Effect 1 is because it was more role-playing based.
It was a purer RPG.
It was very much like a more traditional BioWare game, Knights of the Old Republic and stuff, where it was more RPG based, but this was a blend of action and RPG, and then 3 and Andromeda took it too far in the action way for me.
So arguably it doesn't do either particular. It's more that the writing's good, but I don't feel it's a very good RPG or action game. It's carried entirely by the strength of the writing.
The Council will never trust Cerberus. They'll never accept our help, even after everything humanity has accomplished. But Shepard, they'll follow him. He's a hero, a bloody icon.
The characters, the world building, yeah, it's that is the interesting part, and that's the reason that I always come back, is the fact that, like,
the world building's good, yeah.
These characters are so likable in Mass Effect 2 especially, and so, like, different as well. Like, you've got a squad of, I think without DLC it's like 9 characters, and with DLC it's like 12 or something.
Here's the thing,
11.
I'll forgive bad mechanics and stuff if the game's well written. Do you know the best example of this? Do you know what other game came out around the same time as Mass Effect 2 that was similarly an RPG with action elements? Fable.
Oh,
Do you ever feel the need to go back and play Fable 2 or 3?
Nope.
Like fuck you do. Do you know what that is? Because the writing shit.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play Mass Effect 2 and 3? Hell yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Because the writing's real good.
It does say here, in contrast to the exclusive focus on the main story of the original Mass Effect, the developers opted to create a plot where optional missions had as much intensity as the main mission.
Which is good, because some of the optional missions are it's loyalty missions, isn't it?
The loyalty missions are some of the best missions in all of the game, yeah.
It's some of the best writing as well, because obviously they directly involve characters that you grow to care about, like Jack's loyalty missions, for example.
This whole place was built to turn you into what you are.
You don't get it, Shepard. I survived this place because I was tougher than the rest. That's who I am.
You end up learning more about each character, and
which you want to
do.
For
example, there's like 2 of the characters that are a bit more closed off about their backstories are Jack and Miranda, and then when they learn to trust you a bit more, they, give you the option to go do their loyalty mission, where you find out about their backstory and why they might be so closed off.
And that's the thing as well. Imagine that with worse writing. It'd be completely unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would fucking hate it, right?
Oh yeah. I'm sure there's games that have tried to be Mass Effect 2 that have just failed because they didn't have as good writing.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I love it's
including Mass Effect 3.
It's why I'm playing like Baldur's Gate 3 for the 3rd time all the way through, because I want to see other characters' side stories and romance options. Like, you've probably seen like everyone on the internet is like thirsty for Asterion.
Oh yeah.
I love that character just because he's fucking hilarious. He's so sarcastic and bitchy. Like, there's a bit in the game where like he's a vampire, and when he first becomes a vampire, it's like, can I have a bit of your blood? I've never had human blood before, and he can kill you. And if he kills you, you just wake up the next day and your dead body's on the floor of your camp. And you have to pick another character to revive you. And Asterion comes up and you're like, you fucking killed me. He's like, but you got better though, right? It's fine. And he's such a salty bitch about it. But then later in the game, you can let him die in an explosion and then bring him back. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you dropped a monastery on my head. I was right there. And you go, well, you killed me. And he goes, okay, fair enough. We're even now. And he's great.
Oh dear.
It's like writing can carry a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way I've seen it put is like, have you seen, like Lucas, Joe Starfield came out, won Game of the Year. It's like Xbox Game of the Year.
Right. Okay.
Name one character from Starfield.
I mean, I played 2 hours and got dreadfully bored because of the bad writing and the bad gameplay.
Name one character, Lucas.
I can't.
Okay, you've not played Baldur's Gate yet?
No.
Name one character who's not Asterion, who I already mentioned.
Karlach.
There we go.
And I've seen people talk about like their favourite characters all over, social media.
And that's the thing, the writing is so good that you want to play it again.
Mm-hmm. And Karl, speaking of favourite character, do you have a favourite crewmate in Mass Effect 2?
That's the thing, it changes. When I was a kid, obviously, it's Miranda, because she's got a big ass. And then, as I grew up, it's like, no, it's Gareth, because he's my boy. He's just your boy.
Yeah, Gareth is the dude.
But as I grew older still and started to appreciate sci-fi, because I really like sci-fi and sci-fi concepts, the character of Mordin, I always found him very interesting. Like a species that only lives for 40 years is a very interesting concept that I liked seeing explored in the game.
Yeah, and I could make arguments for like Thane and Jack.
I never liked Thane, but I've heard people love them some Thane.
I love me some Thane. I think Thane might be my favourite.
He's a lot of people's favourite. Remember we talked about how he was specifically designed to be fuckable?
He is.
It's so fun.
Like, put Thane in Baldur's Gate. That man needs to get
He's basically a Baldur's Gate character, how fuckable he is.
Yeah. And then, Liara's great, Tally's great.
I do like Tally's a really... I liked how interesting her backstory. It's like... What we talk about is like... Mass Effect is so good because the aliens feel like fucking aliens. Mm-hmm. It's like we shit on Star Wars because like they're just people with green shit slots on their face.
Yeah.
Like we talk about like the Ahsoka show, like she's just a woman painted orange? Why the fuck is she an alien? What about her being an alien impacts the story in any way? It doesn't. She's just a fucking alien. Whereas I think you're talking like Tali, her being a member of, what's the race's name?
Quarians.
The Quarian. Her being a Quarian impacts the story. And if you take her as a Quarian to certain parts of the universe, the story changes because her being a Quarian is important.
It matters, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've got Legion as well.
Yeah.
Legion.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's Legion. Oh,
Legion, I forgot about Legion. Voiced by Wesker.
It's not like Saren's Geth. It doesn't worship the Reapers, and it wants to stop the Geth who do.
So it's just one of the friendly Geth that drove my people from their homeworld.
We do not intend physical harm to the creators at this time.
It's such an incredible cast of characters, and then there's also Jacob and Zaid. It's like, even Miranda, I don't particularly like her, but then you get the loyalty mission, and like, her loyalty mission's really good, and you start to understand her character a bit more, and you get a bit of sympathy for her, but it's just like, for the most part, like, Miranda's not the best.
Yeah.
But again, like, you know...
It's the thing of, you can tell the game
fan service.
Yeah, you can tell the game came out in 2010, because she's literally... She says, I was genetically engineered to be the perfect woman. So, a white woman with big tits.
Oh, wait, I thought that was Jessica Chobot, right? Because they put her in the game.
And she has the exact same model as well, which is funny. Every woman has the same model, but yeah, I just thought, I was engineered to be the perfect woman. Okay, a white woman who falls madly in love with the male main character. Cool.
While the camera just like pans across her ass every time.
It goes all the way in, yeah. Right in.
And you said like the Legendary Edition that we're going to be streaming doesn't have as many arse shots.
They cut it out, yeah. They cut it out because they were embarrassed.
The amount of times in that game where like the camera just stays still on like focuses on women's asses is uncomfortable. The game was released to critical acclaim. It was praised for its presentation and cinematography, diverse and complex characters, and improved combat over its predecessor, which I agree with all.
The combat is better, I just don't like the change to the guns. It's just the guns.
Some critics, however, expressed concerns about the game's simplified role-playing mechanics. The game received numerous year-end awards, including Game of the Year at the 14th Annual Interactive Achievements Awards, that's a mouthful, and Best Game at the 2011 the BAFTAs. Yeah. There's a lot of words in there, the BAFTAs.
It's got very good writing. Like whenever we talk about Mass Effect, we say this has better writing than every Star Wars movie. There's better world building in this. Yeah. There's better world building in fucking Gears of War than Star Wars has. The world building in Gears of War is actually super good and, more importantly, very consistent.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, the world building in Mass Effect is very consistent.
And I did expect to get further into this wiki, but obviously, like, as people will discover when we stream, we can just talk about Mass Effect for days.
Good. It's just such a good universe.
Mm-hmm. I'll just go over a couple of like critical responses and.
Oh, who give it a bad review? Go on.
That's what I'm looking for.
Look for that bad review. Look for that person who's like literally wrong.
The worst one I can find is GameCritics.com at 7.5 out of 10. Mass Effect 2 on Metacritic for the 360, 96 overall, 98 positive reviews, 0 mixed, 0 negative.
It's a really well written story.
It's a fucking great game.
That's the thing. It's really well. I like it. Mass Effect is really good. Like we've got some issues with it. It's like some problematic elements of like, oh, it's clearly made by horny dudes, and the thing we talk about Thane, which is really funny. The character of Thane was written in response to a bunch of female fans of the first Mass Effect writing to the game's makers saying, "Why can't we romance Garrus?" And they were like, we didn't think people would find Garrus attractive. So what, you mean a guy who listens? you mean a handsome guy who listens and is respectful? And I contend that Mass Effect is inadvertently one of the most progressive games ever made. And they didn't mean to make it a progressive game, but it was just accidentally progressive because they wanted you to be able to play as femme shep or male shep. And as a result, because they didn't want to write dialogue they didn't want to write 2 games worth of dialogue depending on if you're playing as male shepherd or female shepherd. They made every bit of language gender neutral, which means that you don't have that moment that you would have. If Shepard was written as a woman from day one, you would have that dialogue. You'd have that person like, hey baby, come over here. You'd have that. But because they...
See, I'd argue that they should have that dialogue, but for both. Like, when you're male Shepard, people just can't call on you as well.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Because they didn't do that, the game is inadvertently really progressive because just everybody's respectful to female Shepard.
Mm-hmm.
And they all call you Shepard, no one calls you baby. I think there might be like 1 or 2 unique dialogue options if you're a man or a woman based on romanceable options and stuff like that. But for the most part, everyone just calls you Commander Shepard.
Yep.
No one, there's 100%. No, and your character is never filmed in a leery way, a male gazy way like Miranda is.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they did that, they'd have to have different cutscenes for male Shepard. And they don't want to do that, and as a result, and think about that. But they accidentally made the game super progressive because they didn't want to be sexist. It was too much effort to be sexist, so they didn't do it. Which is fascinating to think about, right? Because they were. Look how they film Miranda. Look at the character Miranda.
Like, look at how they treat canonically female characters in that game.
But that's the thing as well. Like, being sexist was too much effort.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird to think about. But when you think,
it is.
When you
bring up a good point, though,
it was too much effort to be sexist, so it's just progressive.
Love shit like that, where it's like, it was like doing it but accidentally.
Yeah, it's like The Sims is another example where The Sims was always accidentally really progressive because Sims were canonically bisexual. Because any Sim can date and marry and have sex with any other Sim.
Mm-hmm.
So Sims were all canonically bisexual. Because it was easier to just program them to be able to fuck anyone they wanted than program in strictly make it heterosexual.
Mm-hmm.
So again, inadvertently, really progressive.
Fair play to The Sims nowadays. It is like
they
actively progressive in that kind of stuff. But yeah, and Carl, it's funny going down this Metacritic. I just sorted by Metacritic score, and that Game Critics 75 is the only one that didn't give it like a 90 out of 100 or more.
What was the issue with it then?
It just says players who can look past the lack of drive, annoying decisions, and a general stripped down, dumbed down feeling can, thankfully, still look forward to some truly spectacular moments and unforgettable action before credits roll. And that's obviously that's the tagline they must have put at the end of the review or whatever. To summary, it's not any kind of proper review, but in hindsight, it's easy to say a lot of that stuff, but at the time, I think it was pretty revolutionary in a lot of those systems.
What's the year it came out? Because obviously, if
2010.
So if you're talking about I guess if you're a fan of KOTOR and stuff, and you want a BioWare RPG, fair, I can see why you'd be annoyed. But it's not billed as that. It was billed as a space opera. It was billed as space action story game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I get some of their points, but yeah, for what it was billed as you say, this space opera where you can make decisions, but you are still playing as Commander Shepard.
Yeah,
you're still telling this one story. It's it feels a little harsh to go that harsh with 75 out of 100.
It wasn't billed as that, but it's one of those things where it feels like the reviewer went into it. It's a BioWare RPG, and they played it and went, oh, it's more of an action game. It's well, look at the cover. The cover's 5 people with guns, but for context, that year you had Fallout New Vegas, which obviously you can never criticise because that's a fantastic RPG.
That definitely got better decision making, for sure.
Bioshock 2, which has worse decision making. Do you want to harvest the child? Red Dead Redemption, the original,
doesn't have much role playing in Red Dead 1. It's just an action game.
It is fun though. It's very good story.
It's fun.
Writing wise, very good
story.
Writing. Just Dead Rising 2, probably the worst, the weakest one in the front. Actually, no, it's not, is it?
No.
Every Dead
Rising 3 and 4. Ugh.
Fable
Talk
3.
about a series that got progressively worse.
Yeah. Speaking of Fable 3 came out that year.
And again, the writing and the storytelling and the decision making is all so much worse in Fable 3 compared to Mass Effect 2. Again, we can and will talk about Mass Effect forever. If you want to see us talk more about Mass Effect 2, I will have already streamed a couple of hours by the time this episode goes out, but we will be playing through all of Mass Effect 2 on my Twitch, links down below, and we will be playing 10 PM every Monday, Mass Effect Mondays, just a couple of hours at a time. That's UK time, obviously, for anyone not in the UK. Yeah, we need to stop ourselves when it comes to Mass Effect.
We can I talk about it all day.
We can just keep on going and going and going. But yeah, come and join us on Twitch to play through Mass Effect 2, and you'll hear a lot more of us just going ham for this game, because as much as like there are, you know, elements that you know, we don't think are the best, like the morality system, it's such a good world of characters.
It's great. And let's say me and Lucian like add foot that character to every character who comes on screen. Especially when like Legion turns up and I'm like, Legion.
God, yeah.
That's the one.
It's just anyone but Zaid.
There's an exhaust port
there. Oh god.
I'll find it.
Thank you everyone for joining.
I fucking love Legion. He's so good. I forgot he was in the game.
Oh dear.